Welcome, everybody. I'm Melvin Wong, and together with my colleagues, we will have a presentation on how to assess forest conservation with geospatial evaluation tools. And we're really pleased to host this presentation because we have like a problem that's very special to what the COP deals and also the development banks. Conservation is really important, obviously for CO2 reasons and mitigation, but also biodiversity protection to save our planet and to have a livable planet. So to start with, the problem is that we have really high levels of investments in protected areas, not only from World Bank, KfW, but also World Bank and other donors and countries. This is what we negotiate as well as for climate financing. However, we lose forest every day in our in the protected areas. Oh, no, sorry. Read my notes. So we lose forest every day in the protected areas, and the question really becomes, like, what are we doing there? There's a need for accountability. So when you do financing and you lose still forest in these areas, what do you do there, right? So we say we need tools to assess the effectiveness of the protected areas in order to change the design, to have more impact, to have more bang for the buck. And we imagine this problem like a cube. So we have this kind of cube created, and this cube has different fasteners. So you have like a bolt, you have screw, you have these cable wires, and in order to kind of open this box and having the answer of like, does the conservation financing really work? We will now look at different tools to kind of open up the wire and the bolts and the nuts. So we do this together with my wonderful colleague. So from AfD, Ingrid Dahlmann, she is Impact Evaluation Officer. Also, Florent Bellecarat, he is a researcher at the French Institute for Sustainable Development. And Holy Malala Ranirampsua, Professor of Economics at Antananarivo. And we do this together to tackle this problem. What would happen in absence of these conservation projects? So maybe Ingrid could kick us off. Like, we have been working together, Ingrid, on this topic, and you're from the evaluation department as well. How did you encounter this cube in your work, and what kind of questions did you want to address?
Yes, thank you, Melvin. And yes, in fact, in my work, I often talk with project managers, and they want to know if forest conservation projects are really making the difference. And as you know, for all kinds of projects, the key question is always, did the project reach its objective? But what are these objectives? For protected areas, the main tool for forest conservation, the goals are twofold. First, to protect forests, and which means stop deforestation and preserve biodiversity. And second, and at the same time, to improve local well-being, because conservation can't happen at the expense of local people. And as you know, most families living near forests are poor, and they depend heavily on these forests to survive. And additionally, good management and strong governance are also essential, because they help to ensure that conservation has a real and lasting impact. So at the end, the key questions become: what is environmental and socioeconomic impact of a protected area, and what are the key management and governance characteristics that enhance the impacts. And all these questions are connected. And to see what's really happening, what works and what doesn't, we need to look at each question with the right tool.
Okay, thank you. So these are the questions, and they apply to many of the international organizations. So how to tackle these questions? How can we use the tools to answer these questions?
So that's where our toolbox really comes in. Each question requires a different tool to open the cube and see what's happening inside. For instance, and when we work on projects that change land use and then the impact are on the long term, like protected areas, geospatial impact evaluation is particularly a powerful tool. It combines open satellite imagery, geospatial data, to counterfactual impact evaluation methods. And with this kind of tool, we can study the effect of a protected area on several outcomes like forest cover, CO2 emissions, wildfire, and we can do this for a single site or for a portfolio of projects. For example, KfW used this approach to assess its Latin America portfolio of protected areas. You know very well this analysis. And the results show that there is an average positive impact on forest cover. And another example is that at the EFT, we also use geospatial impact evaluation for other forest interventions, for instance, to evaluate how forest management plans and certification schemes affect forest cover in Congo Basin. And if the questions, and finally, if the questions become more complex, and like evaluating how environmental results link with social and economic outcomes, then we can combine several tools. And that's exactly what we do in the Betsaka projects, and a project in Madagascar. And so I give the floor to Holly and or Florent, and if you can tell us and the public a bit more about the Betsaka project, what do you do, how do you work, and with whom?
Thank you so much, Ingrid. So in Betsaka project, which means biodiversity, economic trade-off, and energy assessment. It's a research project, and this word means also in Malagasy plenty, because we have plenty of questions on the project. And as the objectives are aligned of what you have said before, and we have mainly three questions. The first one is, do protected areas in Madagascar truly help curbing deforestation and wildfires? And the second one, do they improve or constrain the livelihoods of the rural population that live around the Malagasy protected areas? And the last one is, how do governance and funding models influence their outcomes? And with this research project, we study with a project which are funded by KfW and IFT, and this is led jointly with IRD and the University of Antananarivo. So our objective is to produce clear, locally grounded, and openly accessible evidence of these questions.
So this case here is a specific application of the tools on Madagascar to dig deeper, in contrast to like a portfolio analysis, what we did in KfW or in IFD. And it's interesting because when you do this country case, you can really go deep. So how can you maybe extend more on how to use the tool specifically to assess these kind of questions? Because these are a lot of questions on effectiveness of conservation, but also on the ground data probably for household impact and livelihoods. Laurent.
Yes, thank you and hello. So basically, when we talk about tools in research, we mainly talk about data and methods. And so in this case, on the data side, we have different types of data. Remote sensing, which we are using a lot. These can be either raw imagery, or we increasingly have access to composite products that others have produced, for instance, on forest cover and its evolution year by year, or on land cover with more classes like grassland or urbanized areas and so on urban density, on population density, for instance. So these are the remote sensing. We also use a lot the household surveys, either household surveys produced by the national statistical institutions or household surveys that we produce ourselves. We also tap into operational data. In our case, mainly the data from the PA monitoring systems. We also have the use of national statistics, for instance, when we want to compare the living standards of population on the long run. We have to use price indexes, and other researchers, for instance, use international commodity prices and imports and exports to see how cash crops influence the deforestation, for instance. So with all these data, a simple way we can do simple geospatial analysis to see, for instance, how these areas, protected or not, evolve over time. But to go beyond spatial analysis to do geospatial impact evaluation, we have to use rigorous impact evaluation methods. And basically, it's a set of statistical procedures to prove and measure the causality between interventions like conservation and outcomes like deforestation and fires. So basically, we do the same as in other fields like public health when you want to assess the impact of lockdowns on COVID or the impact of minimum wages on employment, except that here we rely a lot on the location of the areas on their georeferencing. So and we do that combining quantitative tools, basically rigorous methods to enhance the comparability, to build counterfactuals in order to demonstrate the impact of interventions like natural parks, and also qualitative tools, because we want to not only to measure, but also to understand the sources, and also to be able to specify the causes of the effectiveness or non-effectiveness. And so together, these data and methods form our geospatial impact evaluation tools.
Cool, thank you, Florent. Maybe we can move over to the household survey, because I mean, obviously, we see a lot of applications of satellite data in conservation projects. But maybe, Holi, because you conducted so many household surveys, some things can't just be answered with satellites. I mean, a lot of things actually. So can you maybe dwell on what's the point of using household data for forest conservation projects?
Yes, thank you, Melvin. As Florent said before, in Betaka project, we are used two kind of data, and household surveys complete satellite data, and because household surveys allow to know, for example, where people lives, most of the time, statisticians just apply surveys and they ask 10 to 1,000 questions, and we can understand the living conditions of the population. And for example, for us, we are using existing data which are produced by the National Statistical Institute here in Madagascar, and we have our one survey also on for example, for this year, we have reactivated 2 rural observatories which located close to the protected areas to understand their influence on household living conditions. These data produced by rural observatories are tracking surveys for each year for the same household. They are 500 households, and they were conducted here in Madagascar since 30 years now.
Thank you. Sorry, a bit distracted. It's quite loud here, actually. For household data, like you have many, many data points there. When you collect so much, it sounds very, very costly. And also, I mean, we know it's takes a lot of time, actually. Could you maybe give us an idea, like how you manage this and how, like, yeah, what kind of scope do we need to expect when we want to do household analysis?
Yes, you're right, Melvin. But as I have explained, we are using 2 different kind of data, and there are differences between them. For example, for national household surveys, the data most of the time are free, are used by free, and for benefits, we can say that we can save time, reduce cost, we can access to a large base of data, and we can have comparability over time. Most of the times also the data are reliable. As a negative point, we can say that they do not include the exact questions that you would like to have. For sample does not enable to you to study a very specification question or location, especially when you want to analyze at a district level or at a regional level. So we need to collect our own data, which is quite different, and also they have their positive points or negative point also. We can say that as benefit point, you can choose who is currently surveyed and what to ask. You can have a better the context data just to ask specific questions, and they are well tailored with the research question. As disadvantages, it is more costly. We estimate around $20 to $200 according to the complexity of the country, of the complexity such as remoteness and questionnaire. The length is quite long, and it also poses logistical challenges, for example, for transportation, climate, energy, and it also have a very time-consuming process. For example, for us, it took 3 to 12 months to tailor exactly the questionnaire and to organize the field. So, as I said, we try to combine both in the BETACA project to have an appropriate result.
Okay, thank you. So we're a bit running out of time, actually, but I think it's really important also to dwell more about like how to do it. because now we figured out that it's important and then it's difficult to do and it's costly. So how can someone who's never applied these methods use them in their organization? Yeah, Ingrid, could you tell us more about what you did in your work?
And yes, I will give you two examples of open access resources available. And first, an IFT is coordinating with other partners a manual called Geospatial Impact Evaluation in Practice. It will be published in mid-2026 in open access, and with 50 international experts and researchers putting case studies across many sectors, including biodiversity conservation. It also offers step-by-step guidance and practical exercises to help practitioners to apply these methods in their own projects. So that is the first example. Second, and the MAPME initiative, a community of practice that provides free and open access to GIS and Earth observations tools for development projects. And it's an initiative that make techniques more accessible and that make the collaboration also easier. And that is, for the example of a success case of this MAPME initiative, and the Betsaka project was born in this initiative. So if you have more questions and on details of these two initiatives, don't hesitate to contact me or Melvin.
Thank you. So maybe we can also have one word on capacity building. I think that's also very important to do. Because you don't only want to have like the global north to do all these research and so on. You also want to have like people actually in the country be able to do this analysis as well. Florent and Huli, not sure who can take this question, but in the Betsaka program, you also have like a very, very big component of capacity building. Maybe can you tell us more about this briefly?
Huli, can you want to come into the capacity building aspects?
Yes, as you said, the manual is very important, but also you need to train people with they should get the necessary skills to use these manuals. For example, in Betsaka project, Malagasy researcher and students are involved in every stages of the project, such as designing scientific protocol, developing survey tools, conducting field works. And also, we have an annual training in applied econometrics and evaluation methods, along with intensive training with researchers and PhD candidates at University of Tenerife.
And beyond the capacity strengthening, I think it's also important to ensure that the research feeds back into policy and interventions to improve what we do, or what operational do. And this was more the work of other actors like Ingrid and Melvin have been working a lot on this aspect. So maybe Melvin and Ingrid, you want to complete on this aspect on policy engagement and operations?
Yes, I can take the question. And yes, I think that in the end, the final goal is to build a sustainable system for continuous learning and evaluation. And to make it work, we need a strong collaboration among all the stakeholders. Here in this kind of projects, it means the ministries, the conservation practitioners, the donors, the researchers, and of course, local communities and protected areas managers. And policy engagement is what keeps this system alive. And these evaluations shouldn't stay on paper. They must fit into decisions, helping decision makers to adjust strategies and to scale projects that work. And that is exactly the goal on impact evaluations like BETSACA. The objective is to take the tools used here for better policy and stronger and conservation outcomes.
Okay, so we're almost out of time actually, and thank you very much. We have unpacked a lot of stuff. So we have this problem. Just let me summarize. We have this problem of the need for accountability of what we do because we see forest cover loss in protected areas, but we still we need to know whether it would have been worse if there was no intervention, right? And for this, different tools we can use. We can use household level data in order to assess whether how these protected areas affected livelihood, because you need to protect, the protection starts outside the protected areas to protect what's inside the forest. We can use geospatial data as well to make an assessment on forest cover loss, and other methods and data to look at governance issues, for example. When you have that, you don't only want for the global north to do the research, but you also want partners, local partners become strong and also have the capacity to do it on their own. And finally, when you have done all of this, you just don't want to put like a paper on the table. You also want people to read it, because there's nothing going to change in the cycle of design, implementation, evaluation, if the evaluation does not feed back into the design. So this component of policy dialogue is also crucial then. This last mile is crucial then to finish basically the impact and to increase the impact. So with this one, thank you very much. If you have questions, just contact me. We have still a couple of questions from the chat that we would like to raise. Thank you.
Melvin, should I read the questions?
Yeah, maybe you can read it out.
I can do you want that I read it?
I see it here. Okay. So Sabine Duria said, like, this is an excellent session on the role of geospatial analysis on climate intervention. Can we elaborate on which areas benefit from greater collaboration between evaluation functions using geospatial data? Florent, do you have, can you take up the question?
Yes, thank you. Basically, the scope can be quite large. You have to have area-based interventions for it to be relevant, and you also need to study phenomena that are visible from the sky. So it covers a lot of things, like in agriculture, not only conservation but also agriculture, or everything that has to do with land use. But we also can do geospatial impact evaluation with household surveys, living conditions, when we use and analyze the proximity, the aspect, when we have geolocated data and we study how the proximity to some interventions or phenomenon brings results.
Thank you. So the next question is, is there risk of over relying on remote sensing because of cost and accessibility? So how is this mitigated? I would take up this question just for the sake of time. I mean, we show here that we have a strong focus on geospatial data because of accessibility and cost effectiveness, but this is not enough. And that's why we have this heavy focus in this project on using household data and going there and gathering data to say something about livelihoods, because that's often the part that gets neglected when you do conservation projects. So it's really, really crucial. There's no risk of mitigation. The risk is still there, but you just have to do it in order to answer this question holistically. Okay. So Arun Jana, this is the last question you can take. Do you have any examples of geospatial analysis being done in fragile context, where the states may have insufficient capacity and there may be governance and data issues? I think, Ingrid, you can maybe say something about this one with the Congo Basin.
And yes, I don't know if for Congo, but yes, it is an example. But I think that in this example of Madagascar, we presented very well what to do when there is low capacity. And so there is a whole system of building capacity. They are each year, and with him the impact evaluation, and there are training on geospatial impact evaluation to practitioners and to future project managers. But it is in Madagascar, it is maybe not so it is accessible. And if not for states where it is not possible to have access, impact evaluation and geospatial impact evaluation is especially useful and to see things without going to the country. But yes, we need to make and capacity building, and I don't know if it can be and distance, or we can build projects together and with global north and south. So yes, that are some ideas, but it is an issue. I agree.
So thank you very much. Thank you, and thanks also for virtual participants. Have a good day. And if you have questions, just come to us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.